on Saturday, leaving many to wonder if the venue is up to par for the city's major upcoming events. We'll discuss this and more on today's headlines. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also talk with Councilmember Tiffany Thomas and Mayor Pro Tem Marta Castex Tatum about the proposed apartment inspection ordinance.
And I'm Ernie Manous, plus FotoFest Executive Director Stephen Evans will tell us all about their upcoming 40th anniversary.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us 713-440-8870 or email us talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org and clicking the purple box.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Nora Rahm. Lawmakers in the White House remain deadlocked over proposed changes to federal immigration enforcement. NPR's Sam Greenglass reports the Department of Homeland Security ran out of money on Friday, forcing it to partially shut down.
This latest standoff seems to follow a familiar cycle. A crisis captures national attention. A number of Democrats and Republicans pledged to take action, only for talks to fizzle and lawmakers to trade blame across the aisle. That's what happened after a bipartisan effort to resurrect lapsed health subsidies fell apart recently, says Senator Tim Kaine, a Virginia Democrat.
On health care, on immigration, the parties are in fundamentally very, very different places. And so that means I go into any negotiation in a topic like this. High hopes, low expectations.
Negotiations on immigration between Democrats and the White House are ongoing, but Congress is in recess until next week. Sam Greenglass, NPR News, Washington.
Ukrainian negotiators arrived in Geneva today for another round of negotiations on ending Russia's war, a week before the fourth anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion. Russia and the U.S. will also attend the talks, which begin tomorrow. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the U.S. is doing what it can to end the war.
The United States has been successful at being able to get both sides to talk. I mean, for the first time, in a number of years, you actually have at a technical level military officials from both sides sat down last week in the Middle East, and we'll restart those talks again in Geneva later this week.
Rubio spoke in Budapest after meeting with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Also in Geneva tomorrow, another round of talks begin between the U.S. and Iran on Iran's nuclear program. The two sides had met earlier this month in Oman. Iran's deputy foreign minister told the BBC yesterday Iran is ready to consider compromises to reach an agreement if the U.S. is willing to discuss lifting sanctions. The UN says despite the U.S.-brokered ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, it's still waiting for an agreement to be reached to disarm Hamas before it can begin removing explosives from civilian areas. NPR's Daniel Estrin reports.
The United Nations Mine Action Service is currently clearing explosive ordnance for humanitarian aid workers, but it's not yet systematically removing explosive remnants from civilian areas, so they're not accused of taking weapons away from Hamas before an agreement is reached on disarmament. The U.S. is working on a plan for disarming Hamas. A question remains if Hamas would retain small arms for some time. In new remarks, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Hamas would need to give up its assault rifles and said 70% of Hamas's tunnels in Gaza are still intact. Daniel Estrin, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
This is NPR News in Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. Early voting for the 2026 March primary begins tomorrow. The election will decide who will represent their political parties in November. Some of the key primary races include one of Texas's 2 U.S. Senate seats. Incumbent Senator John Cornyn is being challenged in the Republican primary by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and U.S. Representative Wesley Hunt, while U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett and State Representative James Tallarico are the Democratic frontrunners. Other statewide primaries will include races for governor, attorney general, lieutenant governor, comptroller, land commissioner, railroad commissioner, and agriculture commissioner. Early voting runs until February 27th. Election Day is March 3rd. For more on the election, go to houstonpublicmedia.org. Houston's World Cup Committee is committing to a $15 minimum wage for its fan festival. Now, any restaurant, vendor, or other business working at the month-long festival will have to agree. That's one part of the committee's 40-page Human Rights Action Plan, which was unveiled Friday. Here's the host committee's chief legacy officer, Minal Davis.
We have a low rate of unions across the state. We have a low minimum wage. Those are just two of many facets of, making sure you're promoting decent work and prohibiting certain types of exploitation.
The action plan also addresses sex trafficking, homelessness, and accessibility ahead of the World Cup. You can read the full report on our website, houstonpublicmedia.org. Checking your weather, partly sunny today with a high of 71, mostly cloudy with a low around 56 later tonight. Mostly sunny on Tuesday with a high around 78. Right now, partly cloudy, 64 degrees on the UH campus. Get the whole story. For more news and information, go to houstonpublicmedia.org. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Auto Insurance protects the vehicles that work to keep small businesses moving forward, including protection while running errands and other tasks at progressivecommercial.com.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hey gang, let's do a show.
I'm Frank Billingsley. Hello, Houston.
Hello, Frank. Hello, Ernie.
Did you just repeat your name, Frank?
Yeah, well, kind of
reminding
said,
yourself
Frank
who
Billingsley.
you are.
I was like, wow, that's an intro.
We want to thank you for joining us today. It is February 16th, 2026, and the gang is back together.
Yeah,
we are here.
When I hear and Frank Billingsley, I always think and Joan Collins as Alexis.
And I drive up in a white Rolls Royce.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be nice.
No, we just need to get you the white Rolls Royce.
Yeah, there's that
But
part.
talking about riding on things, you were riding on a float on Saturday night.
I was part of the Moments Parade. I was.
And you didn't get washed out.
I didn't. Our float made it just as things were starting to turn.
Yeah.
And so we had running room. Now, we got a little wet running to the bus, but we were okay.
So, Frank, what float were you on?
It was called Jubilee.
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 Beautiful.
It was fun.
That is so cool.
We got our faces painted.
Yes.
And got to the float, and we were on the float. Then afterwards had dinner. Then there was an after party. I mean, it just goes on and on.
Yeah, I love this time of year because of the celebration, because we're leading up to, for me, it's Easter. I think it's exciting to have Mardi Gras, and then we have Fat Tuesday tomorrow. And, and that's really cool. I kept thinking about you on Saturday night because I was at home watching the news, and the news was freaking out.
Well, and I was in touch with people about that. You know, it was even the tornado warnings came down while we were on the float, and fortunately, they were radar indicated. There was nothing on the ground, which is always encouraging. I've seen a lot of those radar indicated. But this line was a healthy line of storms, that is for sure. Yeah. Everybody was watching it. But they pretty much got the parade in, which, they had to cancel the Gambrinas last year.
Right. That was horrible, the rain that night.
So I guess the only advantage to canceling would have been you get to take all those beads and use them next year. Because that's the big expense.
Right.
I mean, all that stuff you throw. The floats are the same floats every year.
Yeah.
They just redo them for the theme. But they have a warehouse where they house the floats. But then the cost is there, and you shut down the streets, and the cops have to be paid overtime and all that. So it's an expensive proposition. So you don't want to not have the parade if possible.
I've got a beads question for you and for you listening to us right now. When you get those beads,
China.
No, not where do you get them? When you
they all
get
said
them.
made in China, so I know where you get them.
What do you do with them? Like, I keep
Once
them
you have them?
for a while, and then I'm like, why am I holding on to these? And I end up throwing them away. But I keep thinking, what do other people do? Do people keep them?
I keep them. We have bags full in our
But
closet.
for what?
So
I don't know because they are ours.
So Dan's grandmother, his rest in peace, she passed away recently, well, about a few months ago, and they used to live in New Orleans, and she had a huge, I don't know if you could say like a vase. It was huge though, and it was full of beads. And when the grandkids would come over, they would just go through it and play with it. And I always thought that was such a great way to kind of have it on display, and it was fun, and I thought that was very cool, and the kids love it.
Is it wrong to like keep them on the next year, take them back and throw them out again? Or
Well, that's definitely more sustainable.
But then there are a lot of special, like we had Rockets hats that had Mardi Gras 2026, and we had little basketballs.
Oh, those are expensive beads.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of other things to throw.
Yeah,
than beads.
There's definitely levels of beads as well.
I try generally to throw to the kids, and there are a lot. It's very family forward. I mean, it's
so you don't have to do something from the crowd to get beads in this parade.
Hold up a kid.
Hold up a kid.
But
throw me beads. I got a child.
They're so happy. The smile on their face when they actually catch one, it just warms your heart.
I know we're running out of time for the chit chat at the top of the show, but I've got to ask Celeste, the Hansel and Gretel Family Day on Valentine's Day, you took your little ones.
Y'all looked precious.
It was so well done. Nice. I had so many friends of mine reach out that are members of the Houston Grand Opera. They love it, but they say that they weren't sure how to introduce their children to the opera because it is long. It's in a different often it's a different language. What the Houston Grand Opera did for Family Day was Hansel and Gretel was about 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. They had face painting, the concessions, they had Chick-fil-A come in, or not face painting, they did glitter. So everybody got glitter.
So it gets all over your pillow.
It was all over my house. And
it's the herpes of arts and crafts. You can't get rid of it.
Oh, my Lord.
So, yeah, it was just really well done. It was in a relaxed environment. You really felt like it was Family Day, and it felt like a special place where everybody had access to it, including our little ones.
It's a great way to introduce the art.
Kudos to the Houston Grand Opera on the event.
Okay, really quickly before, once again, we run out of time. We talked about the weather over the weekend. How's the weather forward looking?
Warm and dry this week. Maybe a 20% chance for a shower Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Beautiful right now. Look at that.
Yeah. If you're watching on YouTube, where you can easily find us on either the Houston Public Media channel or just search for Hello Houston, you can see our sky cam, which shows us how the weather is downtown, looking over the city. All right, we've got that. We've got a very busy show today. We've talked about this topic before about the apartment ordinance, and we're going to be talking with two members from City Council who are strongly behind it and are going to talk to us about it. And we are also going to be doing an awful lot on the arts today. We've got all different angles we're going at it, from photography to acting to entertainment law even.
Can we take this call real quick? It's about Mardi Gras. There was some criticism. I don't know if David has that or not. David, what's up? Welcome to Hello Houston.
I know it's not a criticism. Ball High collects beads year-round to then sell them, and they've got a big tub that's in front of the front door at Ball High. You can just dump them in there, and they'll take care of any excess beads.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you for that update on it.
Nice PSA there.
Yes.
David, do you dump your beads or do you keep some?
And a big tub. I keep them all.
You keep them all.
Yes.
You're right in my camp. Every so often, like every 10 years or so, I'll look and I'll be like, what is all of this? And I dump them. But now I know where to go dump them.
And Ball High is a high school in Galveston, just for those who don't know that are listening. And so if you have those beads and you're like, what do I do with them?
So I
Ball
gotta
High
admit,
does fundraising.
As we go into your headlines, I did not forecast heavy storms and inside of NRG Stadium.
Well, that's right. Heavy storms.
David, thank you for your call. Take it away, Celeste.
Heavy storms caused water to pour into NRG Stadium during Saturday night's Monster Jam, leaving parts of the venue soaked. Video from inside the stadium shows water leaking through the roof, raising concerns online about readiness for major upcoming events, including the FIFA World Cup and the Houston Rodeo. The Harris County Sports and Convention Corporation says the stadium is in the middle of a roof replacement, making it more vulnerable during extreme weather. Officials say events at NRG Park will continue as scheduled and apologize for the inconvenience. Is this just an unavoidable weather issue or a red flag for future events at NRG Stadium? If you were at Monster Jam Saturday night, call us. Tell us about it. Was it as bad as what it seemed like on those videos?
Have you seen the video?
It's bad.
It's bad.
713-440-8870. Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston.
I would love to hear from somebody who was there. If you're out there, give us a ring. But it does make you wonder. I mean, weren't the McNairs asking for a new stadium already? And there were rumors that they might build one out toward Katy. And there's been a lot of talk about the fact that this is a 25-year-old stadium.
Wow.
I remember we hosted the 2004 Super Bowl.
Yes.
Right? But and it was about 4 years old then. So, I mean, we're looking at, it's quite old, and it probably needs all the help it can get.
I don't think a 26-year-old is that old.
For a stadium, it ranks old.
Does it really?
Yeah.
See, I come from a
When it
time
has
where I think like
a retractable roof. I mean, that's the part that needs to be fixed.
right. But
So-
can't you just repair a leak? I mean, I know, yes, it was torrential leak. It was a big pour in, but that obviously tells me something didn't close, something didn't seal, something didn't match up, and that can be a line fixed repair.
I'm not an engineer. I know they are working
So that
on
looks
it.
like she
We
knows something.
hosted the Super Bowl back in 2004 and then again in 2017. And you would imagine that, yes, this might be a 26-year-old piece of structure, but surely the updates have been being made.
I don't think so.
Obviously. But what also makes me wonder is that is not the heaviest rain we have ever had. And so haven't we noticed that leak before? Is this something that just happened? Because obviously, or maybe at other events when it's been a torrential downpour like that, it wasn't open to the public at the time, and so we didn't see it or have footage.
Right. But again, 713-440-8870. Let's go to Carolina from Richmond, who's joining us now. Carolina, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi, good morning. So our family was there on Saturday, and it was pretty bad. We saw it coming down. The people that were in the rows where the water was actually hitting, I'm not sure if the stadium gave them ponchos or if they had them, but the entire row was everybody had like a poncho on. Somebody actually had an umbrella open inside the stadium.
Wow.
Help me.
And I asked one of the employees, like, how long has this been happening? And all he said was since the last major hurricane, which I think was
Barrel might have done a number on the roof.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that.
Right.
I bet it did tear up some of the roof.
Question for you. Was there any kind of chit-chat or chatter about if people were going to get some refund on tickets?
not aware of any.
Rain check? A rain check?
I would be a little
Literally.
ticked off. You know, you get there with your kids and it's a whole thing, and then you're getting rained
I want to
on.
know, Carolina, was there any thought did you have any thought of like, this could get worse and the whole roof could start coming down? I mean,
Yes, because it was in various areas. It wasn't just one. It was like, I was sitting in section 304. So it was like the corner to the right of us, and then right in the middle of the stadium, probably like on the other end, but towards the middle, it was also like, there was like a waterfall coming down on that side as well. So it wasn't just one section. I'm like, which one's going to be next? We did see people walking up high, like way, way, way up high on some rafters. There was somebody walking up there, so I'm guessing they were inspecting or...
Yeah.
I don't think they were fixing anything, but there was somebody up there, up high, that we saw that was walking around, I'm guessing, looking at what was going on close up.
How long did it last, the showers?
Oh, the entire show.
How long? You broke up there.
The entire show.
The entire show.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so even the water that pooled up there had to find gravity and come out somewhere, it sounds like.
Well, Carolina, I'm happy that you are home. I'm assuming dried out from that. And thank you for calling and sharing with us.
Well, and Jack's reminding us that the team will move its practice facility and headquarters to Bridgeland in a few years. Could there be a stadium eventually built out that way? I love Bridgeland, by the way. That's a fabulous community.
Yeah.
And Sean Radigan says it didn't leak during past storms. I think he's saying I don't buy the story about it being under repair.
But I think that barrel coming through may have had something to do with this.
Yeah.
You would think, though, I don't know, I might be wrong here, but you would think that the stadium would have some type of responsibility of letting people know that are going to events or the people that are holding events there to say, hey, just so you know, our stadium is under repair.
Yeah. I would think that there probably is something but I would think, like as they joke often about the Golden Gate Bridge, that they are always painting it. And once they get to the one end, they start back over again because it's such a massive thing. I would think stadiums are constantly under repair, that there's always something that needs to be tweaked, fixed, and adjusted.
Well, and I would think one thing, since the rail line goes to NRG, I don't think they're ever going to move it. I mean, there's a possibility, I guess, they could move the stadium, but I think that's a big part of why the rail is there. It goes to NRG, and when you do have the rodeo and all there, it's a perfect location. I think they just need to get it fixed. That's probably, but you know, that's a specialty.
Well,
stadium roof repair is a specialty.
But hearing from Carolina that it wasn't just one spot, that it was happening in multiple spots across it, that makes it more serious.
Yeah.
But like we said earlier, I can't imagine this was the first time it ever leaked, so they must have noticed this happening. So I don't know. Maybe we can get someone and we can find out.
If I went, and it's a lot to take your kids out. And a Monster Jam is a kid thing. You know, you're taking no adult wants to go to Monster Jam.
Oh, I do. I've never been, but I think it'd be fun to
Ernie,
go to.
we will take you.
I would love to see
I'm on
it.
Celeste's page there.
Sorry. It's just, now, Philip, oh my gosh.
Like the big trucks drive over things and stuff, right?
We are in that phase. Yes, and they do jumps and they do all kinds of things.
I'll go with Philip. Or you can take Philip and me.
I'll
You'll
take
have your
both
two
of you.
boys.
Yes.
Do you remember Wes Hohenstein was a weatherman here at Channel 2?
Yes.
Yes, you know Wes.
Yes.
Okay, he and his son.
I sat with him at your wedding.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
Well, he and his son have had a YouTube channel for a long time where they would take a toy truck and do things to it nobody else would do, like roll it off the high dive or different things. But he made a good bit of coin by having this weekly video of what to do with a truck. Kids love to watch trucks do whatever.
Obsessed. My son is absolutely wildly crazed about Monster Jam, Monster Truck. He knows all the Tiburon. He knows all of the names. It's a thing. And it's very cool and it's very fun. And it's for families. And people should not have to pay to go to an event and get rained on inside.
Celeste is caught up in the finances of it all.
I'm still like,
you know what the folks in Sugarland were caught up in? Getting married. Love was in the air in Sugarland on Saturday, and the wet weather around town didn't dampen the romance. Couples lined up at City Hall on Town Center Boulevard for a free mass wedding. Would you get married in a mass group?
No.
It reminds me of, Frank will remember this. Remember Reverend Moon? And,
he used to have 700
massive
people.
weddings that they would do, but those were a cult wedding. These people, I assume, wanted to get married. According to organizers, 100 couples were set to tie the knot in the ceremony being offered at no cost. The free wedding was offered up to couples who obtained a marriage license at least 72 hours before the ceremony. So it wasn't like you were driving by and said, hey, let's go get a free wedding.
Get married.
Yeah, Municipal Court Judge Matthew Montez was on hand to preside.
Would I want to go to one of those weddings? Yes.
But you wouldn't want to be married in one.
1,000%. And I'd walk around and say, congratulations. Oh my gosh.
Well,
I love weddings. But you're the bride.
So that's a lot of weddings.
That's a lot to share.
But it's nice that people that want to, get married and don't want all the hullabaloo.
See, that's
of
me.
Their own wedding.
That's Ernie.
Yeah, if I got married, I want attention. I don't want attention in that realm, I've always thought about that. I thought, wedding, and then you got to stand up there in front of everybody, and you got to do this ceremony. It just, for me, it's like
My wedding was lovely.
Yours was.
See?
Yeah.
For
I'm sure
you.
Yours was.
Mine was
and I'm
too.
sure yours was too.
Mine was too. I look back.
I wouldn't want one.
And I feel like we look so young. And that was
Well, you
50,
were.
this year, 15 years. We do.
You were young.
You were way too young to get married, Celeste.
No,
Frank didn't look that young at his wedding.
I was 25 when I
Little
got
grass had grown under the steps by the time they decided to tie
I
the
was
knot.
52. Well, we met in 95, but got married in 2012. So.
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to everybody who got married and celebrated Valentine's Day and had a wonderful time. We're happy for all of you.
Okay. I won't put you on the spot and ask about wedding bells.
No wedding bells for
Ernie.
Ernie. No,
Okay.
no.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with Councilmember Tiffany Thomas and Mayor Pro Tem Marta Castex-Tatum about the proposed apartment inspection ordinance. This is News 88.7.
Meet Dio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
In markets and think about the variety of policy questions.
I'm Amy Scott. That story next time on Marketplace.
You can listen to Marketplace. It's coming up tonight at 6:30.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, a workers' compensation provider committed to handling claims to help injured workers get back to work. More at texasmutual.com/mutual care. Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from CertaPro Painters, offering residential and commercial painting services, from color consultations to full project management. Estimates and more at CertaPro.com.
Support comes from the Clarion at Brazosport College, featuring the vocal ensemble Kitka on February 27th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets and more information at brazosport.edu/Clarion.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system. Support comes from the Imprint Cool Brains series, presenting Meg Medina, recipient of the Newbery Medal, with her new middle-grade novel, Graciela in the Abyss. Sunday, March 1st, 3 p.m. at Meyerland Middle School. More at imprint.org. Support comes from Visit Galveston, presenting Mardi Gras Galveston, February 6th through 17th, featuring parades, live music, and events across the island on the Texas Gulf Coast. More information at visitgalveston.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. Join the conversation. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
After months of delays, Houston city leaders say they're ready to move ahead with a new effort to crack down on unsafe and unsanitary apartment complexes. City council members are hoping to pass the Apartment Inspection Ordinance, which would create a registry of what the city calls, quote, high-risk rental buildings. Properties that repeatedly rack up health and safety violations would be added to the list, triggering ongoing inspections and potential fines should problems continue. Council member Tiffany Thomas and Mayor Pro Tem Marta Castex-Tatum are set to host a community meeting this Thursday at the A-Leaf Neighborhood Center to let tenants, landlords, property managers, and stakeholders to comment on the proposed ordinance. To tell us more, we welcome Council Member Tiffany Thomas to Hello Houston. Welcome back, Tiffany.
Hello.
Good morning.
A quick point of order. What time is the Thursday meeting?
At 6 p.m. Both of them are in the evening times. And if you're unable to attend, HTV will broadcast this live on Channel 16 and on the city's social media platforms.
Will there be any interaction from people watching like we have, or you just watch?
Yeah, you'll be able to watch. We're unfortunately, we're unable to manage that portion. However, we are receiving feedback ongoing because we are making sure that once this item is clerked on the committee, we are looking for a special called committee meeting on March 30th. So we still have time, and then we have 30 days before it comes up to council vote. So the engagement piece is not limited to those two meetings.
So when we're looking at this ordinance, just strictly at the policy of it, explain to people what it is. What type of data do you have that supports that there is a need for this ordinance? And just to clarify, because I think oftentimes we talk about rentals or properties or this, but we really don't understand what it's trying to tackle and do.
Sure, absolutely. So 57 to 60% of Houstonians are leaseholders, so some form of rental housing, so majority of our city. And as a district member, we are inundated with, and I'm sure at-large members as well, quality of life issues. And it is not uncommon for property managers, operators, and tenants to come before City Hall during public session and talk about public safety issues, structural issues, balconies falling apart, drainage, sewage backup. And so we're managing all of this isolated of each other. We do have a committee within the department that has representations, 2 persons from HPD, 1 from Fire, Houston Public Works, an ex officio member from the mayor's office, solid waste, and they work together, Houston Health Department as well, and they work together to mitigate this. However, we need to add teeth to what is already on the books. So the item initially came before council in November. It was referred back because of limited engagement. Advocates from Texas housers all the way to industry leaders like the Apartment Association offered concern because they weren't at the table to contribute. A month later, the administration started having conversations with them, brought it back in December. It was referred back to the administration.
So what teeth are we talking about?
Well, we need accountability and we need enforcement. So what the public is unaware of, and even industry leaders, who are our top 20 bad actors in the city? We don't know that. Then what's the fee schedule? What's the timeline? We don't know that. And if we can't articulate to a leaseholder that when we deploy, because as a council member, I can easily say, absolutely, I'll escalate this to the Houston Health Department, I'll get this to Public Works. But if I can't articulate to you the timeline and what you can expect, then we don't set a standard of accountability, and then we're unable to follow up to say, did we move this to resolution? And also what needs to happen and what we intention for these 2 meetings is a lot of public education about what is already on the books and what the proposed item is moving to do. And from a council perspective, this is going to inform us on what needs to happen in terms of a funding perspective when we get to budget, and making sure that these departments have the personnel needed to get us to the point of success.
We talked about this a while back, and I'm curious about the evolution of the legislation up to this point.
Sure.
What has changed in different, what has been added in or what has been taken out, whatever.
Sure. So yeah, from when it was initially, I think this is massaged over time. And then the last item that the administration kind of absorbed this and started talking to the industry, and then the advocates such as the Texas housers, it has massaged, but the core of it for the most part has not. The committee hasn't changed. And what, at least from Mayor Pro Tem and I's, our perspective is we're not attempting to color in the lines. We really want to hear from the people, because that was the missing piece. A lot of the pushback was we have not been engaged with this. And when you're looking at 57 and 60% of Houstonians that are leaseholders, and when you walk in City Hall, it says the people are the city, but yet they're not involved in their public policy making process. And so we are making sure that what we often do at City Hall is that we vote on the item and then we move on to the next thing, and we never revisit. And we're trying to reverse engineer kind of this lazy governance of getting it right once it gets to the agenda.
One thing we're all learning from, and follow this with the Epstein files, is a bill was passed, but there was no penalties put into it. In your legislation, are penalties built in so we know what happens if people go afoul of it?
Absolutely. And that was one of the recommendations, one of the stakeholders that presented a fee schedule and making that public, which I really appreciate. And one of the things that I've been talking to Public Works and the director about is, I think they're proposing, looking at our top 12, I want to move them to our top 25. Because we have to signal to bad operators, you're on that list and we're coming for you too. So even when you just look at their 11 council districts, District F, we have the second highest inventory of multifamily in the city. So when you look at the top 12, there'll be a high focus on the west side. District B is next. So when we have to also look at citywide, but also by district.
Are you going to go after people who personally rent a place? I can see a landlord of a huge complex.
Sure.
That can be a big problem. But let's say I own an apartment in a condo area.
Sure.
And I want to rent it out for FIFA.
Sure.
Or I want to rent it out for
No,
NRG.
that's not the intent of this.
Okay.
We did have a short-term rental ordinance that passed a couple of months ago. That probably would adjust for this, but this is purely about quality of life, structural
everyday renters.
Just making sure that the property is safe and clean. For instance, does the gate close? Is it always broken? Does your elevator work? Is the sewage backing up on your property? Are you unable to use your water? And these are constant concerns that we receive at various departments and council offices.
So I feel like my question is kind of a twofold here, right? I want to understand what already is happening that's already put in place.
Sure.
And then how you plan to essentially balance the impact of this ordinance from the tenant perspective, who might be saying, I'm concerned about my rental price skyrocketing, and then also a landlord's perspective, thinking I have concerns about regulation.
Sure.
Sometimes things happen.
Yep. Sometimes they happen all the time. There is some nuance to this item. So first, I want to just speak to the format of the engagement meetings on Thursday, the 19th, and on March 5th. So we'll have a brief opening where we'll hear from each representative from the departments that do this work every day. They're going to talk about what exists and what's already on the books. Secondly, leaseholders are going to go into one room for engagement, and then our operators and property managers are going to go into another room, and we're going to have a deeper conversation about what they're experiencing. As chair of housing and affordability, I see all the time and hear all the time about when you do this, my rent goes up, and the rent's already too high. Right. And so we understand that. But what the reality is that they're already paying the rent and they're not receiving the services that they're supposed to have. Base services. And so for those who are active landlords, and I have really good landlords who we work together to co-create public safety solutions. Most of them that we have issues with, they don't even live in Texas. They don't even live in Houston.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's the thing. And so when you talk about in Houston, we're a small town, big city. Yeah. When the operators that live in the city, their children go to our schools. They serve with us in nonprofits. We see them at the dinners and the galas, and we see them in social circles. For those, my problem apartments, they don't even live in the state of Texas. So when we talk about accountability, we also have to put that on Front Street as well, that there's a nuance around folks coming to Texas, absorbing these properties, and then not maintaining them as well.
So if a restaurant breaks the rules for the health department, you can shut the kitchen down.
Correct.
You can shut the bar down and not let them serve liquor. But when you have an apartment complex, those people still have to live there.
Absolutely.
You can't shut it down.
Absolutely. And those are one of the things that we're looking at discussing openly at the special call meeting on March 30th, because we have to have kind of a launch pad. So if there is an example, and we all saw the story about the infestation of rats and trash in District D. Councilmember Evan Shabazz really led to mitigate that effort. But here's a nuance. If you are already on a voucher, there's a federal regulation that instructs that you have an opportunity to be transferred out of that apartment. Every multifamily development in the city is not the same. You have some that are managed by federal agencies such as HUD, contracts with HUD. You have others that are managed by the state of Texas. You have some that the city of Houston we have funds in, and we get to come in and do that. So this ordinance is about perfecting all of that and making sure that we're all on the same page. If this is a HUD managed property, residents need to know what is available to them as a voucher holder, so they can get out of that unit into a clean, safe unit and still pay the same price.
Speaking of residents, if I'm one, how do I make my complaint that's actually going to do some good?
Sure, simply 311. And I know it's 311. That's the number one place. And 311 is so important because that's how on the back of the house, that's how we're able to capture the data. That's how we're able to escalate. And that's how we're able to go back to the budget table and say, we've had a delta of 20,000 new calls over the year. We really need to focus and put more money in this area.
Have you considered as part of this a certification of this is a city-approved apartment complex? So if you're thinking about living here, this is city approved, and it's like BBB.
Yeah, I think that's all a part of the feedback and how we're going to fine tune and some of the recommendations we welcome. So residents are aware that we have deployed our investigation. We have already done a green check, and the Houston Apartment Association, they do a really good job of a part of this. The Houston Police Department, all throughout West Chase, you can see apartments called the blue check, the blue ribbon apartment, right? Yeah. There's things that are already in existence. And so I think it's about making sure that there's some likeness and alignment with what already exists.
Mm-hmm. I want to remind everyone we are speaking with City Council member Tiffany Thomas about the proposed apartment inspection ordinance. If you'd like to join the conversation, give us a call or text 713-440-8870. I want to go back to something you did mention in the ordinance itself. Is there anything that says if a landlord or operator of this facility is cited with something that needs to be changed, they cannot increase the rent of their tenants?
No, so it's not explicit, but I think, again, we are not baking an ordinance and then coming to people saying this is what it is. We're really looking for their feedback and just sharing with them, this is what's already on the books and this is what's proposed. And so if that is a recommendation that we can add to the proposed language, we're willing to do that and get that worked. And the reason why I keep stressing that is because once we present the item on March 30th, because we had an amendment in December, we have to get this on council agenda for a vote in 30 days. So we don't have the time to go back and forth. So we have to do it on the front end to make sure that what is presented is the most whole, it makes sense. It is, we can get buy-in from all of our stakeholders so we can get a unanimous action. And then those departments can start pivoting so they can start actually working on those top 12, top 25 bad actors.
And that's, you mentioned alignment, and I'm curious, is there enough council support? Is this going to be something that's just going to go right through, or do you think you're going to get some resistance?
Well, I could not imagine there being resistance to keeping Houstonians safe. I could not imagine there being resistance to driving past multifamily properties that historically the lights don't work. Their units are busted up. The sewage is backing up. And this is unique to every council district. This is not something unique to the West Side. And so if there was any question about that, we are encouraging districts to attend. We have shared this with council offices. The mayor has even expressed interest in attending himself because the administration wants to get this done. And so if council members have resistance to it, I want to encourage them to join us on February 19th on Thursday and March 5th, and they'll hear straight from their residents. But I do not believe that there'll be much resistance because this is something that we all want to get behind.
And so how much weight will community and public feedback carry moving it forward?
Oh, it's essential. That's one of the pieces that was missing and why it was referred back, because we didn't have that public input. And so we have to get it right. And there are thousands of ordinances currently on the city books without much enforcement.
Well, and so that leads me to the question, how are we going to enforce this?
Yep. And that's why we're doing this, so we can put real teeth in what's measurable. In my conversations with the public works director about capacity, talking with him about what will it take for your department? What would it take for your department to actually get this done? He has complete confidence as they scale up to work on this. So does the health department, and each department is bought in. We've talked to them individually. Our teams have, our offices have, the administration has. So we are completely clear that we can get this to the finish line. And if we need to get it to the finish line, we might need some funds as well.
We have a call. Marianne from the Woodland Heights is on the line. Hi, Marianne, and welcome to Hello Houston. What's your question or comment?
Hi, Councilmember Thomas. Good to hear from you. I have a quick question, though. Are y'all going to consider doing anything to help the people that own apartment complexes? If y'all are requesting things like generators, that would be a big expense that possibly they don't have the funds for. Is there going to be any kind of money to help them out in any way, shape, or form to get up to where they need to be?
Good question. So two things are happening at the same time. We're currently in our 9% round of tax applications for low-income tax credit properties. That is not related to this ordinance. However, we do have limited funds that come out in the RFP for developers. We have moved by practice of encouraging those who are interested in developing multifamily project developments to have generators on site because we are a disaster city, but that is not related to this item or the public meeting. But I encourage you to join us on Wednesday at public session where you can ask those questions as we vote on that on Wednesday.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, especially enforcement. So you go in with this apartment inspection ordinance, and I'm breaking the rules.
Sure.
And you say you need to do this, and I say I will, and I don't.
Yeah, well,
then what?
Yeah, so one of the things that the Housers recommended was the fee schedule and then the timeline. And one thing that the Apartment Association mentioned is that all multifamily are not the same. You have some operators that they may have 20 doors. You have some that have 100. You have some, 350 doors. And so we have to hear about supply chain delays. A lot of times when there's delay and properties show up on the news, the elevator hasn't been fixed because there's a delay in the supply chain and they haven't been able to get it to the line. I have generators that we have issued out For my neighborhood centers, that's taken over a year because of supply chain. That is happening at the city as well. And I think that goes back to the public education, because a lot of this information has been isolated and siloed, and we have not publicly shared, like, hey, this is what's happening and why the delay. And so if a owner-operator has to go out on a bid, or they have multiple doors, do they need a different timeline than someone who has 10 doors? Do they need to have a different process? And that's all of the issues that we're looking at massaging, so it's equitable across all levels.
And that's, I think, the word, right? Equitable, because you also know that these are not just adults living in these apartments.
Correct.
It's kids that need to go to school and
Seniors,
have to sleep, and seniors.
I've got a practical question for you, too. So somebody has a problem, so they call 311, and they report this problem. And somebody else calls and reports the problem. More people start calling and reporting problem. Do you have the people, the personnel in place to explore all of these, or is that going to start to backlog up because of the size of the city and the size of problems I'm sure we're going to uncover when this is out there?
Sure.
How quickly are people expecting to see resolutions to this? Is it on an individual person's basis, or is it you're piling up this many complaints against that lord, and the ones that rise to the top are going to get the attention? How is it going to actually practically work?
Sure. So I think for capacity to speak to that, this is why we're looking at identifying our top 12 to 20, right? Just so we can understand what that looks like. The Public Works Department is in the process of onboarding hundreds of positions right now. After the EY efficiency study, there's been some alignment with many of our departments, Department of Neighborhoods, Public Works, and some other functions. So they've been able to expand in what they've been able to do. So no, I don't anticipate that. I do anticipate more information and us getting to the budget table in June and investing in this work with funding, because you cannot do this without people.
We got to wrap, but a quick text.
Sure.
Are you sure this is a politician? She is actually helping people in our area and cares. Love her energy, and thank you for all that you're doing to care for rental rights.
I like to say I'm a public servant.
Council member Tiffany Thomas, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Keep us up on this.
For sure, absolutely.
The community meetings are slated to take place in the Alief and Northside neighborhoods, and they'll also be available via streaming. Those are happening Thursday, February 19th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Alief Neighborhood Center, and then Thursday, March 5th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Harris County Department of Education. You can find more information at houstonpublicmedia.org. Coming up, we're going to discuss the art of playwriting. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
That was great.
Meet Gamola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Gamola to learn more about his ride.
Y'all was like really judging me though.
They sniffed it out. They sniffed out that I was weird.
I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna sit, just like in the movies.
Listen, learn, laugh. Bullseye from Maximum Fun and NPR.
Bullseye, Thursdays at 10 p.m. on News 88.7.
On Fresh Air, you'll hear from people who really make you think, like astrophysicist Brian Greene explaining the scientific theory that our universe is just one of many.
And the image that I like to have in mind is, imagine that our universe is like one slice of bread in a much grander cosmic loaf, with the other slices of bread being other universes.
No subject is too big for Fresh Air. Join us.
Fresh Air, weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
I'm Michael Schaefer. My partner Ellen and I have supported public radio and TV for decades.
We rely on it daily. Now's the time to step up.
Donate now to the Resiliency Fund at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from attorney mediator Ron Bankston, providing in-person, video conference, and hybrid mediation and arbitration services. More information is available at ronbankston.com.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8, after an Antiques Roadshow double feature at 7, American Experience presents the conclusion of President Lyndon Baines Johnson at 9. Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from British International School of Houston, a learning environment designed to shape a generation of creative and resilient global citizens. More at bishouston.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, Call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
All right, since 1986, which seems like yesterday to some of us, Ernie.
I never heard of such a year.
40 years ago, the Houston-based contemporary arts organization FotoFest organized a citywide biennial project that occurs every 2 years. So they've been doing this a while. These biennials take the form of large-scale exhibitions, serve as a showcase for meaningful photo-based art that explore a range of different social, cultural, and political issues. With this year marking the 40th anniversary of the inaugural biennial, the 2026 edition is called Global Visions FotoFest at 40 and will celebrate the past 4 decades with an exhibition featuring over 450 artists from nearly 60 countries. To tell us more about the 40th anniversary biennial, we're joined by FotoFest Executive Director Stephen Evans. Stephen.
Hey, Frank.
Hey,
good morning.
So good
Thank
to see you again. So
Thank
tell
you.
me, where is this going to happen? That's a lot of art.
The primary FotoFest exhibitions are in Sawyer Yards at Silver
Sure.
Street Studios, Winter Street Studios, and the Silos on Sawyer, or the Silos at Sawyer Yards, excuse me. But the exhibition, the project is citywide. So we have about 85 spaces across the city participating. And we're also doing another project at George Bush Intercontinental Airport. So it's going to be kind of everywhere, but to see the work and by the way, I did a recount this morning. It's 530 artists.
Oh, wow. Now. Oh, good for you.
We'll have work by them at Sawyer Yards and almost 1,000 artworks. To see all that, you have to come out to Silver Street Studios and Sawyer Yards.
I have a question that's kind of off the wall. Well, I see so much stuff on the internet that is AI and it looks real. How do you at FotoFest make sure that what we're seeing is an artist's true work?
Well, we're working for this project specifically. We're working with a lot of historical information. We're taking photos that we've already shown from all of our biennials all the way back to 1986. So we're going to show you highlights from each of those biennials, and that's why it's so many artists and artworks. In terms of AI today, the way that we feel about it in leadership is that it's another tool for artists, and we're primarily art photography, but we also show photojournalism and documentary photo. So we're looking very closely. You know, if we're purporting to be documentary, we've got to really drill into it and vet the photographer and vet the images. For art photography, some of them will be using AI. We think we're just at the very beginning of it being a useful tool yet, but photography is about technology. Right, it's a technology that was invented, and it's continued to evolve. You know, there was a time when people thought, "Oh no, digital is going to be the death of photography," and it's led to the explosion of an image-based culture.
Yeah,
But that takes me a little bit into my question here. Is that over the years of FotoFest, the access we have to capturing the world around us has greatly improved. It's not just the photographer who's doing it anymore. It's just not the photojournalist. We all seem to be the photojournalists out there. And so much socially has changed by what we're capturing. How has that changed the view of how you folks do your work and what you present as art photography as opposed to journalistic photography, as opposed to just what people capture as what we used to call candids?
Well, one thing that FotoFest has really done over the years is it's platformed new voices. So brought new kinds of image makers to the public's attention, to the attention of all the journalists and critics and curators that we bring into town for the event, which is a lot, in fact. How we think about it is that it's led to a democratization of availability to become one of those image makers. So specifically, when we worked on the 2018 biennial, which took work from India and the Indian diaspora, photography was only available to an elite in India before then. But with digital photography, it created this huge explosion of people that were able to make images. And some of them became really great art image makers, and some of them became really interesting documentary image makers. And so we think about it as really just expanding it. There's just more artists, more images, but they're not all good. So our role is to help you all see the good images, the ones that we think are, really worth looking at.
The composition.
And that's what I was going to ask you, right, Stephen? You mentioned just how, and we've all kind of talked about technology and AI, but also with the phone, and the how good the photos come out when you take a photo on your phone. How do you, when you're looking at a photo, what is an image that's really good?
Wow. I wish our co-founder and my co-curator, Wendy Watrous, were here with me. She'd help me answer this question.
Yeah.
She couldn't make it today. It's about composition, but it's also about what that photo is telling you about the photographer's world, about their milieu. There's great consensus that the role of art is to tell us about the time the artist is living in, and that role continues through history, after that artist is dead and gone, but those images or objects tell us about life at that moment. So we're interested in something that's really communicating something important about that time.
Yeah.
We got a comment from someone who's saying AI doesn't have the resolution yet for fine art imagery, although it may come to that.
Well, I mentioned the participating spaces earlier. There's an interesting exhibition up at the Moody Center at Rice University that's was organized in conjunction with the Biennial. And what they're putting on is a show of AI image makers and AI as a photographic practice.
Oh.
And
so it may be pretty good right now.
It's getting better all the time. And so that's a really interesting show. I urge everybody to go see that too at the Moody Center. And in fact, on the day of our grand opening, which is March 7th, earlier in the day, they're putting on a symposium about these issues.
How long will your exhibit run?
We are open. March 7th is the opening date, and we run through May 10th.
Nice.
Good level of time. Outside of that exhibit, though, you also do other programs through FotoFest, such as Literacy Through Photography. Talk a little bit about that for us.
Well, Literacy Through Photography was founded around 1990, and it uses photography and photographic images to help kids improve their writing, improve their expression, increase their sense of self and value. And it's a really successful program that's been going in the Houston schools all this time, 36 years. And every year we serve in excess of 1,000 students. So we've helped a lot of students, I think, become better at expressing themselves, getting visual literacy, but getting written and spoken literacy as well. And we'll have an exhibition on that history that's at the Silos at Sawyer Yards building. So we're going to be showing images these kids have been making since 1990 and writing that they've done.
Yeah.
Nice. So through May 10th.
Yes.
Through May 10th.
And we just show up at Sawyer Yards?
Well,
is there Frank again? He just showed up.
You can. So the grand opening, which is always a really fun, big celebration, is March 7th. And it's from 8 to 10 p.m. It'll be a big party. Tickets are available at www.fotofest.org. That's
you might want to spell that.
2 F's. FOTOFEST.org. And they're free, but we like to get everyone registered so we have a sense, we need to have enough wine and beer around for everybody that's going to come.
That's every party I throw.
Stephen Evans is the executive director of FotoFest. Stephen, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And Global Visions, as we were just hearing, FotoFest is at 40. Will be on view from March 7th to May 10th. Coming up, we're going to continue discussing today's top headlines. We'll also talk with entertainment attorney Jalene Mack. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, a workers' compensation provider committed to helping Texas communities and emphasizing safety. More at texasmutual.com/TexansGetIt.
It's going to be a nice day today. Lots of sunshine. Will warm up to around 71. And then tonight, mostly cloudy, a low 56. For tomorrow, another gorgeous day. Sunshine, the high getting up to 76. It's 64, and this is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, voting for the 2026 primaries begins tomorrow with early voting running through February 27th and Election Day on March 3rd. We'll discuss what you need to know and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also talk with entertainment attorney Jalene Mack, who will take your questions about entertainment law and share advice to aspiring writers.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. Plus, we'll also chat with accomplished playwright James Anthony Tyler, who will tell us about his work as head of the University of Houston's Playwriting and Dramaturgy program.
Also, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Nora Rahm. This is the third day that the Department of Homeland Security is largely shut down after Congress failed to approve its budget. The Federal Emergency Management Agency is affected. Deanne Criswell was administrator under President Biden. She says FEMA will still be able to respond to emergencies, but there may be delays in reimbursing jurisdictions for recovery work and in helping them prepare for disasters.
FEMA also provides funding to help jurisdictions with technical assistance on helping them write their plans or administer their grants or giving them the grant funding. It also, provides funding for mitigation projects. And so that funding is not part of this disaster relief fund, and that funding would not be able to be used until they can come to a budget agreement.
Congress recessed for a week without making a deal. President Trump's border czar is reiterating that a small number of federal immigration enforcement agents will remain in Minnesota, despite announcing an end to its recent crackdown. Tom Homan spoke to CBS's Face the Nation yesterday about the Trump administration's next steps. NPR's Alina Selyuk reports.
Homan says more than 1,000 immigration enforcement agents have already left, and several hundred would be removed early in the week to get back to, quote, the original footprint. Exceptions beyond that footprint, he said, will include investigators who will stay to finish the probe into allegations of fraud, as well as the protest that had disrupted a church service. Plus, Homan said an additional security force would stay to protect immigration agents to respond when, quote, they get surrounded by agitators and things get out of control. He did not specify the size of this force beyond saying small, and he said he hoped this contingent could also be removed fairly quickly. Alina Selyuk, NPR News, Washington.
The Kremlin is rejecting a new European report that says Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny was likely murdered by a rare poison. Navalny died 2 years ago in a remote prison in Russia's Arctic under mysterious circumstances. NPR's Charles Maines reports from Moscow.
Issued by the UK, France, Germany, the Netherlands, and Sweden, the report claims that analyses of samples from Navalny's remains conclusively showed traces of epibetidine, a toxin found in poisonous frogs in South America. The report notes that only Russia's government had the means, motive, and opportunity to administer the poison to Navalny while he was serving out a lengthy prison sentence in Russia's Arctic. The U.S. says it has no reason to dispute those findings, yet Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov dismissed the European allegations as biased and unfounded. Russia's government has always maintained Navalny died by natural causes and declined to launch a criminal investigation into his death. Charles Maines, NPR News, Moscow.
You're listening to NPR News in Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. A problem property in Channelview met its end Monday. The former motel has a notorious history of homeless camping inside and setting fires to stay warm and cook. The condemned structure was brought down thanks to a grant from the Keep Too Clean initiative. The Texas Spay and Neuter Pilot Program is giving direct grants to shelters and rescues in Houston to make spay and neuter services free. Tony Malone is the chief clinical veterinarian at the Houston Humane Society. He says that this grant will help relieve the overpopulation crisis in Houston.
We may not always be able to have the funding that we need, but that's why grants and donations are so important for us. But a grant like this would significantly help us improve the animal welfare population.
Malone says the grant will also benefit the community's public health by preventing the spread of infectious diseases. In sports, the Houston Astros hold their first full squad spring training workout today in Florida. They'll be coming into the new season having barely missed the playoffs in 2025. Jeff Balke writes about the Astros for the Houston Press. He says the Astros will be going into the start of the season with a strong starting lineup.
I think they actually have a pretty good rotation, both relief and starting. I think they have probably as many as 10 guys who could end up as part of the starting rotation throughout early part of the season. They play 21 of their first 22 days.
Balke spoke this morning on Houston Matters. Checking your weather, partly sunny today with a high of 71 degrees. It'll be mostly cloudy tonight with a low around 56. Tomorrow, mostly sunny with a high of 74. Right now, partly cloudy, 67 degrees on the UH campus. Get the whole story. Go to houstonpublicmedia.org for more news and information. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their dining and entertainment card, Savor. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back to the second hour of Hello Houston.
Hello, Houston.
We're glad you're joining us.
Did we even mention it's President's Day? I can't remember.
No, we didn't.
Day?
You know, it started out as Washington's birthday, and then everybody
They all
wanted a part of it.
Well, no, it was because it was Washington's birthday, and then like 2 weeks later we had Lincoln's birthday, and
I
then
think
it was like,
Lincoln
let's just
was
lump them
first.
together, whatever, and then lump them together into just President's Day.
That's
Yes.
fair.
To honor all of our presidents.
Yes.
Yes.
Though we didn't take the
Kids
day
are at home. Banks are closed.
Oh, real? Are schools down for that?
HISD had off today,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, good for them.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't.
Good for them.
We didn't. Traffic was a little light today. I
Traffic was
noticed.
light and it was fantastic.
I love light traffic.
Because lately I feel like traffic has just been a bear.
Oh, it's going to get worse, don't you think? I mean, we have all these people moving here every year.
Yep.
And most of them come with cars.
And we also have some major events coming our way.
And there's
rodeo.
no more COVID. I hate to say this, but you know, I still drove to the studio to Channel 2 every day during COVID.
During COVID.
Yeah.
We did not shut down. We were in separate areas.
Mm-hmm.
And so the traffic was so easy there and back. I was like, well, I mean, if COVID lasted a little longer than normal, I might be okay.
That's interesting because I was a producer at Fox 26 during that time, and they moved us. All the producers got sent home, and we were producing from home.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of folks here at HPM too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did the Town Square show. I did the first 2 years of it on the floor of my living room, and
Do
I
you
sat on the floor
think-
because I put my laptop on my coffee table and sat cross-legged underneath the table, and I did the show every day from there.
So
mean,
at
it's
work or
wild.
at home, which would you, if you had a survey, which would you prefer? Remote at home, remote always at work, or a combination?
Oh, combination.
Probably a combination.
Yeah.
For me, because I have my mom at home and she has a caregiver, I kind of like the escape of coming into the office. I get away a little bit. But if that wasn't the case, it'd be hard to get me out of my house. I'm definitely a homebody.
I would say the silver lining of COVID and that remote type situation was I was an evening news producer, and I had just had a baby. And so Philip was born December 2020, smack in the middle of COVID. And I was able to be at home with my kids still working.
I have a little different opinion.
Okay.
When I would go in, there was maybe a week where we didn't go in. But when I was at my office as the chief meteorologist, I felt like I was at my office as the chief meteorologist. When I was at home, I felt like, well, I need to do the weather from here. You know the difference? Like, it's you know, I don't know. I felt like I was more hands-on and focused.
Yeah.
This is my job. This is what I'm doing here. I'm out to do, my public service as my job. And at home, I was like, well, a lot of things going on. I can still wear pajamas.
I think a lot of women that had to work from home are used to having to just be super focused no matter what, wherever they're at.
What I've learned in the multiple times that I've had to work from home as opposed to working in an office, I can't get anything done until I put on shoes. If I'm running around in my socks at home, and haven't put on, everything is just up for grabs.
Still in footy pajamas.
Once I strap those little dogs into the little containers, then I have to work.
My
I
thing
focus.
is, you say how you worked on your floor. I could never do that. We went and bought a fold-out table. We put in the guest room. We had our computer, our laptop. I mean, we really made like a work station where you knew if you were going to be in there, it was, okay, that, I know Dan is working. We're locked in when you were in that space.
I mean, we'd love to hear from you, what you did during that time, too, how you worked, how you managed. It'd be kind of fun to hear the different things. For me, I had a spot where I sat that I worked all day long, a desk at. And when it became showtime, I used to joke, I'm commuting. And I would get up and move my laptop to the coffee table and sit on the floor and do the show. And then it was over, I'd move back to my desk.
Well, our engineers brought a 75-inch TV monitor, 2 computers, camera, lights, everything, and set it all up in the study. Yes, and we did it one weathercast, one. and our general manager at the time said, well, that stinks. Don't do that. We're going back into the studio. Because a lot of weathermen did it from their living room for a year and a half.
I know a weatherman. I won't give his name right now, but he was set up in the garage with the big screen.
Sure, a lot of them did.
But also weather specifically is very different. And I felt like we had some real weather events in 2020 and 2021 to where it was almost like you had to be in the studio.
Well,
to have
a lot
the
of
full effect.
weathermen have continued with the chroma key in their garage. Some of them have dropped out of broadcast television and have their own weather websites where they do the weather for their community.
Well, Frank Billingsley didn't, and we have him right here. So quickly, weather, how's it looking?
It's going to be warm and dry all week. I think that there's a system to our north Friday, Saturday. I don't think it's going to bring any rain here, but it might, 10% chance. But all in all, pretty quiet weather week.
Yeah. Well, it's not a quiet news week. There's a lot going on out there. If you watched over the weekend, so much going on. Wrapping up of hearings, new hearings coming. I mentioned briefly Epstein files. Looks like the Clintons over the next 2 weeks may actually be giving their testimony before Congress. I'm kind of hoping it will be broadcast in front of the full body, but I have a funny feeling it's going to be behind closed doors. But all that's going on. But other than all that, Celeste has also got our local headlines. What's going on?
Early voting for Texas's 2026 primary begins tomorrow. Voters will choose the Republican and Democratic candidates who will appear on the November general election ballot. Election day is March 3rd, with early voting running February 17th through the 27th. In each race, a candidate must win more than 50% of the vote to avoid a runoff. If no one reaches that majority, the top 2 finishers will face off in a May 26th runoff. Texas does not require voters to register with a party, but you can only vote in one party's primary, and you'll be limited to that party's runoff if there is one. On the ballot, one U.S. Senate seat currently held by John Cornyn, all U.S. House seats under newly redrawn congressional maps, and statewide offices including governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. And remember, you'll need an approved photo ID to vote in person. What race matters most to you this primary season? And what issue or issues will be the deciding factor for your vote? Now is the time to have your voice heard. You can call or text 713-440-8870.
You know me, I get all over this one.
Oh, Lord, I know.
I know. Well, everyone, first of all, go to Harris Votes if you live within Harris County. HarrisVotes.com. Check and make sure you're registered, you're in the right stuff, you've got everything there, and it's in order. .com, yes, harrisvotes.com. And you can go there and find out all your voter information and make sure that you're informed. Also, there's an awful lot on these primary ballots. And so take a look. You can take a note in with you because there's not only just the races that Celeste was talking about. The big one is the U.S. Senate race for the primaries to find out who our candidates are going to be on either party. But there's also the judges. And there's a lot of judges. We've had a couple on our show talking. Make sure you know what's on the ballot when you go in there and make an educated choice.
Okay, I have a voter registration card.
Yes.
Do I need anything else to go vote?
Well,
your ID.
You need an ID.
So I need an ID versus. I don't really need the voter registration.
I don't think your voter registration card works as an ID. I think now you need a photo picture ID.
Okay, when you say that, it's a driver's license enough.
Yes.
You don't have to have a passport.
No. There was something
you don't have to have
a
birth certificate that matches the name on the driver's license.
No.
Okay.
There was a thing a little bit ago about had to be an official thing, and there's a little gold star on our driver's license now that say it's an official, which I don't get what it was before. But yes, your driver's license is enough.
I think the state also issues IDs.
Right, you can get a state ID if you don't have a driver's license. There's other proofs of identity you can bring with you.
Passport?
Gun license, I do believe, is one of the ones that's
gun
allowed
license?
in Texas.
Can't you print that at home?
Well, no, I don't think so.
Well,
I think it has a picture on it too.
But there's a lot of fake stuff out there.
We'll get somebody back on the show who can actually answer educated on this. But the important thing is make sure you're registered. Go and vote. Early voting is a dream. If you take a look and see who the candidates are, do the early voting because there's hardly any lines. You can vote anywhere within Harris County if you're registered within Harris County.
And put it on social media. Post that it was easy to encourage other people to do it.
Get your little sticker that says I voted. Take a picture of yourself, post it, tag it with at hellohouston.show and let us share it. Let's see how many of our listeners can get out there and vote. It starts tomorrow.
That's not a bad idea.
Anything else you want to say about the primaries? Because I got an interesting story for you when it comes to elections.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Democratic National Committee spent $6.5 million late last year to buy former Vice President Kamala Harris's supporter email list, even as the party began 2026 deeply in debt and trailing Republicans in fundraising by nearly $100 million. Federal filings show much of the $6.5 million quickly helped Harris's new political group, Fight for the People PAC, pay off leftover 2024 campaign expenses, including payments to media, polling, and event vendors. The DNC officials say the purchase of this list, which helped the 2024 nominee raise $1.5 billion in 15 weeks, is a long-term investment in grassroots fundraising and voter outreach aimed at helping Democrats compete in the 2026 midterms. But it has drawn questions about the Democrats' financial priorities as the party works to regain control of the House and Senate. What are your thoughts? And for me, it's the bigger question is it time for solid campaign finance reform? Give us a call, 713-440-8870. Thoughts, reactions?
Well, I don't see this as fundamentally different from how political power has been leveraged in Washington for decades and years. I mean, when compared to the scale and visibility of how this presidential administration and its allies have profited while in office, this transaction feels to me very relatively minor.
Yeah.
And more importantly, legal. And so the real question isn't whether money circulates within political ecosystems, but why we continue to normalize far larger conflicts of interest at the highest levels of government.
Well, the DNC spending this money for Vice President Kamala Harris's email list, aren't they all in the same church? I mean, they may not be on the same pew, but they're certainly fighting for the same things.
Yeah.
So first of all, I'm surprised her email list was for sale, because I would think that her email list came about because of the DNC. Certainly her nomination came about because of the DNC.
Well, campaigns...
So don't they already have an ownership
no,
stake in
campaigns
that?
and national committees run separate.
Well, clearly.
Yeah, and so the DNC is an overarching of the Democratic Party and keeping it in line. They do the convention and all that. Each campaign has its own approach, its own fundraising, its own. They get help, aid from the National Party, but they also create their own lists. And it's kind of like when you want to hire a news producer. In the old days, we used to say, what's on their Rolodex? That became their value, who they can have contacts with. So a fundraising list is the same thing. Kamala Harris has value in the party because she has the ability to raise money. So she has a certain position.
But why does she have that value?
Because her team has worked the leads.
But they got their blessing from the DNC.
Right. But then, so her campaign maybe against Gavin Newsom would have a presidential campaign, and they're building their own list with people they know. So it's your Rolodex you're kind of buying. And so what they bought, and what makes hers so powerful and important, is in that a very short period of time, because campaigns usually last much longer. Hers was extremely truncated. In 15 weeks, they raised $1.5 billion.
Let me give you an example.
Give me an example.
You have a very healthy Rolodex. You might call it an email list, or you might call it people on your phone.
Yes.
But you got that because of your role here at Houston Public Media over 25 years.
Yes.
So
30.
So if you
30 if we must
So
be
if you go to retire, would you say, would you all like to buy my Rolodex?
I'd love to do it. They're not going to buy my
Exactly my point. Exactly
but they don't
point.
have access to my list. My list, yes, my access into people over the years began with my position here. But I meet people, I encounter people, I do benefits, I work for nonprofits, I get contacts, I build this list out. My list is different than your list, is different than Celeste's list.
So,
and I use it in my job.
And I'm just going to piggyback on this analogy in that there's also a separation between the organization, since we're using this analogy, Houston Public Media going out and supporting Ernie versus Ernie having to go out himself and build his own Rolodex.
So you think Kamala went out on her own and built her own
Her
Rolodex?
team did.
Most
and where did her team come from? The DNC.
They come from, they gather them from around.
But 713-440-8870. Clearly, this is a hot topic. And
let's go.
We want to hear from you. Let's go to the phone lines. Michael from Spring is on the line. Michael, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi. I just had a comment about campaign finance reform overall. Just in general, talking about specifically, I don't know how it is for every state, but for national representatives and senators, when they go out and they do their, say, calling for donors, they can't actually do that in the Capitol building. They have to go off-site. Republican and Democratic Party each have their own, off-site locations. And they've done the math. So if they do a certain number of calling hours per week, whatever the case is, they've done the math of how much they have to make per every day of calling, for every hour of calling, for every minute of calling. So with that being said, I think they really need to reform all of this, because if they have to make a certain amount of money every hour of calling, they may not be calling every, John Doe throughout the country. They may only be calling a certain level of person that can donate maybe that much. So just overall, and plus, representatives have always said they don't like that process anyway. So just talking about, I suppose, reforming that part of, campaign finance.
Yeah. Thank you very much for those thoughts, Michael, on that. I want to go back to something you said, Frank, a minute ago, talking about these examples. Within the party, think about what's happening right here in the state of Texas. In a very heated race that's going on is that Senate race. So you've got Crockett and Tallarico.
Yep.
And they're each drawing from their own pools of supporters and things that they've developed over time and who their supporters are and such.
Okay.
So that doesn't mean the DNC has all of their lists, because what's valuable to Crockett is her list and what's valuable to Tallarico is his list. in raising
Well,
funds.
I've never given anything to either one of them, and I get texts from them all the time.
And that's
How
something.
do they know my number?
We got a text from Lupe in South Houston, and Lupe says, DNC buying Harris list. No wonder I'm getting so many fundraising texts and emails from candidates in places I don't even know. And again, that was a text from Lupe in South Houston. But we have quite a few calls in the queue. So let's go to Greg from Kingwood. Greg, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hey, guys. Good topic. To kind of caboose on what Michael was saying, that, you hear all these politicians and all the lamentations about, I spend all my time raising money, I hate it. If they identify the problem and we, know what the problem is, it is the money. And I'm not sure how to get it out. And the other thing is gerrymandering. Just make all districts have to have 3 90-degree angles. And they expand until they get, 100,000 residents in that square. That's it. There's no gerrymandering. All districts have to have 3 90-degree angles. And then do something with the money. But, if everybody gets the same amount of money, there's got to be some way to make politicians responsive to the people. If they don't have to go out and, quote, fundraise, then, it's like, well, I get the same amount of money, I get a basket of money, I'm not going to do anything with them, going to the district.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Greg, thank you for your call. I agree a lot with Greg. And, of course, this isn't a fully thought-out position that I'm going to share right now, but it is. Each candidate's allotted so much funding for money to run, and then all media organizations at a certain level or higher are expected to give so much to each candidate equal to something. I haven't thought this all out yet. And then get all of that extra money out of it. Stop having them to have to, each network has to give so much time for on-air debate or exchange. The audience knows to find out about candidates, you got to go to this point. Enough of this, because right now it's just, I just think it's all very off.
Well, I just go ahead.
I was going to say 713-440-8870.
My point is, I guarantee you that Kamala Harris did not on her own come up with an email list worth $6.5 million.
No, but her team did.
To Nancy Pelosi and the DNC. And so to turn around and say, I got this list because I ran for president because you let me, because you didn't even have a primary. You just made me the candidate. And now I have this list. I need $6.5 million for it. Is unconscionable. She should say, here's my list. I want you to use it. If there's anything else I can do to help you win, I'll do it.
The list has value.
That's actually, I think, a solid point.
Thank you. Give me 5.
Now I got to battle both of them.
We have another call. Do you have something really important?
I hope Alan is going to help me out of this at 713-440-8870. Alan, please, what's on your mind?
Yes, I agree with points that Greg made, and I call giving money directly to candidates, whether it's corporate, individual, or PACs, is bribery, even if it's $1. But that's not what I'm calling about. What I'm calling about is the media is totally ignoring anything outside of the primaries. You would think that the Democrats and Republicans are the only parties that exist. But if you go to txgreens.org, you can see about the Green Party of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Alon. We have Bubba from the Galleria. We've talked to Bubba before. Hi, Bubba. What's up?
Well, Ernie, I'm sorry, but Frank's got the better side of the argument on Kamala's email list.
Bubba, come on, help me out.
I don't know for a fact, but I'd wager a large sum of money that a huge number of the emails on Kamala's list started with the DNC.
Thank you,
That's
Bubba.
for one.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree with that.
And then Kamala got money and got all kinds of support from the DNC, and now she pays them back by selling her email list. Like I say, you go, Frank. You're on the right side of this one.
All right, Bob, I'm going to challenge you a little bit on this. I'm sure that raw data has some value, but curated data has more value. So they could have maybe gotten a lot of help from different organizations, different groups, different lists, but somebody within the Harris campaign curated that down to a very powerful list that in 15 weeks could raise $1.5 billion. And as DC 8828 said in our chat group on YouTube, data is the hottest commodity these days. And so to have a well-curated list, I'm sorry, in today's day and age, $6.5 million seems like a really good price to get a list that can warrant that much money in return.
Okay, Ernie's really working it over
well,
here. Okay.
I will say, I don't know that she kept much of the 6.5 million.
No, it went to pay off debts from her campaign, which she shouldn't have to have debts to run for office.
Let's
that goes
go
back to
to
earlier.
Donald from Spring Branch. Donald, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hello, how are you? I finally called in on time.
Yay,
Thank you, Donald.
welcome, Donald.
Okay, here is the issue.
Okay.
Oh boy, I don't know where to start. Boy, I should be on the show. I need an hour. However, real quick, like things that you never knew and never heard from anybody. First of all, when Joe Biden said we'll have 67,000 new IRS agents, well, every donation that comes into any politician at any level should have an IRS, especially big ones, should have an IRS team monitor where it came from, who gave it, how legal is it, was it money that came from the mafia, whatever. And also, when it's spent, they need to get a receipt. And it should all match up at the end of the term there. And nobody gets to keep their donation money to buy a new car.
Mm-hmm. Good point,
also,
Donald.
Well, here's another point that you'll never hear from anybody. By the way, this Donald over here is the same as the other Donald. We're both going to be 80 years old this year. So you'd want this team of IRS people to be 6 young people and 6 old people like me who've been around a long time. I worked for Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, Father Bush, Clinton, and W. That's how it goes in the military.
Wow.
So once you get started, you want to stay in.
Yeah.
However, I also worked for the Mosler Bank Vault Company. So I broke into safe deposit boxes and the bank vaults when they wouldn't open legally because I worked for the company. So if there was a will and the money in the will would have money in it, you'd have to, and they can't open the safe deposit box. My job would be to go and open the safe deposit box, and there had to be an IRS agent, a safe deposit custodian, a notary public, and me, and we'd open it up, and only the notary public and the IRS people and the family would be there, open up the box to find out how much gold or money might be in there, and log it in.
Yeah.
Well, all of that is a pipe dream idea, but I agree with you.
Donald, thank you for calling in and sharing your opinions. And when we have an opening for an hour, we'll have you on the show. Thank you for calling.
I'd chat with you, Donald.
Yeah. My British computer guy says, it needs reform for sure, Ernie. I'm reading that because it's one in my column. 713-440-8870. Bruce is on the line from Galleria West. Bruce, what's on your mind?
Hey, Ernie, this is Bruce again, and thanks for the great show. I think we have to have serious campaign funding reform. I think both the ideas on your show are excellent, and I'd like to add that we should have more debates, but they need to follow the real debate format, not the ones that they're doing. Because if we have a small amount of dollars, then they ought to expose those people the same way. And I'm going to get off the line so you can get some other people, but you have a great show, and we need more of this. Thank
Bruce,
you so much.
Thank you very much. Rich from Baytown writes, tell those guys to calm down. If you have a system where you vote with money, only people with money get to vote.
And his name is Rich. That's interesting.
Oh, and he's rich. There you go. 713-440-8870. Jane from Fort Bend. Jane, what's on your mind?
Hey, Ernie, I'm for you, buddy. That
Thank you.
is valuable. There is no way. I do believe we should reform. I think we should have a set amount. It should be doled out to them. But until then, yes, she has drawn more voters than the DNC had. Now, granted, the DNC may have initially given her a list, but she brought out voters who would not have been on DNC's Rolodex.
Yep.
$6.5 million worth of voters.
Well, if she raised $1.5 billion with that list, that sounds like value to me.
And again, 713-440-8870. Let's go to James from the Medical Center. James, welcome to Hello Houston.
James dropped.
Okay,
Hopefully
I'll
you'll give
talk.
us a call back.
It
Okay, Frank will
says,
talk
it says it helped raise the $1.5 billion. It doesn't say she raised it. It just says she helped raise it. She may have been responsible for $100,000.
It's interesting looking at campaign fundraising. Ernie, you've said that you receive a lot of campaign commercials from James Tallarico asking for money.
I mentioned it to him when he was here in-house. That is all I have received from him.
My point is that whenever you are going to say, I'm not going to take Super PAC money, I'm not going to take, then your campaign is simply a fundraiser.
Right.
Whenever you are campaigning and you have major, big PAC money coming in, you can then focus on messaging.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is that, yes, we need reform across the board.
1,000 years ago, when I was doing radio in Chicago, I had Ariana Huffington on my show, if you remember that name. Her husband had run for Senate in California, and at that time had spent more money than any candidate ever had to run for an office at that level, and it was just under $30 million. And I remember her saying to me, I said, isn't that an awful lot of money to spend on a campaign? And she said, well, we could have used the money to buy a yacht, but we chose this instead. And I thought, what a woman of the people.
Well, let me make two more points.
Okay.
The DNC is $100 million behind the Republicans.
I think
so.
I
They
said
shouldn't
that.
be spending $6.5 million on an email list. And the New York Times has reported that in a private deal, the DNC covered $20 million in Harris bills post-election. So they've already put their money in the garbage can.
As they should. She was their candidate, and so they are fiscally partially responsible for her. The $100 million.
But then aren't they officially responsible for that email list and shouldn't have to pay for it?
No, it's not just, well, whatever.
713-440.
Go to the calls. Go to the calls.
No, hold on 1 second.
70. Ernie's going to have his comment. Go ahead, Mr. Manous.
Thank you. Thank you, Celeste. Love the show. First time caller. If you spend $6.5 million with the potential of being able to raise that $1 million or $100 million that they're behind, that's a good investment.
But you shouldn't
invest,
have
Frank.
to buy it from Kamala Harris.
713-440-8870.
I'm
Let's
going
go.
to hang up now and
If
listen
she
to your
had won,
comments.
maybe I would agree with you, but she didn't win.
Let's go to Beth from Sugarland. Beth, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, I want to say on the topic of politics, the trade unions need to get bigger into talking about it with their members. Specifically, I'm with the JPMC Workers Alliance, and we absolutely make a point of anytime there's an election, speaking with our members and figuring out how we want to vote. I don't know if that's common with like the electrical workers or anybody else, but it's according to legend, it used to be a very common thing, and I'd like to see it come back. Thank you.
Beth,
Thanks,
interesting
Beth.
point. I just heard something over the weekend. I was watching some news, and they were talking about how labor unions no longer give you the monolith they used to, and that's why you don't see as much fighting for those endorsements and that support. Where in the past, if your union was supporting a candidate, you got in line and voted that way.
Yep.
Now it's much more dispersed, and so I think that's part of maybe what Beth is talking about now and why we don't see it like we used to.
All right, quick call from Joe in Missouri City. Hi, Joe. What's up?
I'm calling because I think that these problems overlap. Nonstop fundraising, partisan activity in government, and the way primaries work. I think that if we can stop members of Congress and other politicians from fundraising nonstop, then they can actually do more non-ideological problem solving. I think that, having partisan activity in the structure of government is injurious to our democratic liberties. It conflicts with the oath of office, which is to serve everyone and the Constitution, not your party, not your next campaign. And then I think that we need to have opportunities for people to choose better candidates. The current primary structure incentivizes extremism. I think ranked choice voting and open primaries would give most voters better choices. And if it comes down to two people at the end, if it's that type of ranked choice where you have a second round, that'll get more people to come out and vote because they'll see candidates that they actually would rather vote for. I think all of those things can go a long way to making money less influential in politics.
Joe, I like what you're saying. Thank you for sharing that with us and calling. I want to go back to something Frank said a minute ago about they already paid the campaign to $20 million toward it. So she's still behind. She hasn't paid all of those debts off. So they say, okay, we'll give you $6.5 million more. What can you give us? And she was like, I've got something of value to you here. Take this list, pay off my debts. I'll give you this list. This will help you raise back that money and a whole lot more.
And she didn't say, and it's a list that you helped me get.
713-440-8870. Let's go to Gloria from downtown Houston.
Morning. I just wanted to say that when the Supreme Court made companies individual so that they could give so much money, the burden and the balance of justice totally switched. So as a result, you have all these companies and PACs putting tons of money in, and as a result, these candidates are having to counterbalance those fundraising efforts.
Good point, Gloria. And as we bring this conversation to a close, I just want to say I have thoroughly enjoyed the interaction from the audience today and hearing from you and having the time to be able to take a lot of your calls. Oftentimes we run out of time too quickly and we can't get to the calls. And today I felt like we got to a good chunk of them. So thank you, and thank you for being involved.
And thank you, Bubba.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you to
Bubba.
all the rest who are on my side.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk with entertainment lawyer Jalene Mack about her nonprofit, and she'll take your questions. This is News 88.7.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
I've always tried to do in my music is just tell the truth.
Who am I really? Get into the minds of some of the world's most creative people.
Totally exploring their ideas.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you everything.
The Arts Hour brings you the finest arts and culture conversation from across the BBC and beyond.
It's the variety. That's the world that interests me.
The Arts Hour from the BBC.
Fridays at 10 p.m. and Saturdays at 11 p.m. on News 88.7. Support comes from the Dan L. Duncan Comprehensive Cancer Center at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center, offering comprehensive cancer care that is compassionate, personalized, and driven by clinical research. More at stlukeshealth.org/cancer.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8, after an Antiques Roadshow double feature at 7, American Experience presents the conclusion of President Lyndon Baines Johnson at 9. Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8, Ellen Benninghoven and Dr. Michael Schaefer, proud sponsors of Houston Matters with Craig Cohen. Tune in Monday through Friday at 9 on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
So is there anything Jalene Mack doesn't do? I tell you, lawyer, actress, producer, writer, author, philanthropist. You've been involved with Steve Harvey, Tommy Davidson, LaToya Luckett, Destiny's Child, former Houston Rockets sportscaster Kenny Smith. You've been an actress. You are a performer, but most importantly for us today, you are a lawyer.
I am. And, until you read my little credits, I'm like, did I do all that stuff?
Yeah, well, I have that trouble. They read mine, I'm like, I wrote that. I guess I made most of it up. Jalene's here to share her success story and take your questions on entertainment law. I have one right out of the book.
Okay.
Well, I wrote a book.
Okay.
Okay, and I got the copyright on it.
Okay.
But I can't control it internationally. They can steal my book, sell my book. I'm not going to see a dime.
Yep.
Is there anything to do other than go through a different bookseller?
You just said the answer. It's hard to do anything about it. It's in the international space. We're in the U.S., and so we can only control what's happening in the U.S., although there is a type of collective bargaining agreement where if you go and register your work internationally, you can protect it, but you have to literally register it in every country, right?
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
a lot of
Lord.
work. A lot of people don't care. A lot of people don't care.
It's not that good a book.
Well, and then depending on the kind of book it is, because if it's a book that's just information based, it's really not a lot that you can
Not
do. Like
creative
if you compile,
either.
right? If you just compile statistics or lists and things like that, and you give commentary on it, I don't know if it's worth the trouble. But if it was a total non-fictitious story that you created, or I should say a fictitious story that you created, like a script or something like that, it's probably worth the trouble.
So, Jalene, yes, and we have all kinds of questions about media law, but I am really interested about your journey, essentially, acting, producing, writing, and how you have landed now into law. Because to become a lawyer, you also have to go to law school, but you were also wearing all of those hats. And I hate the word balance, but I really do, because I think it's impossible and it's not real for women. But you did, and you do wear a lot of hats.
I do, and I like to tell people, God made women natural multitaskers.
Yes, amen.
Right? We make people. So
yes,
why can't we multitask? And so, so in short, I was an actor before I was a lawyer. And so I've always been in the arts. I grew up in New Orleans, immersed in music and culture and entertainment and all this stuff. I just got back from New Orleans this week from riding in a Mardi Gras parade. So I'm all in when it comes to costumes and all those different theatrics. But yeah, I knew I always wanted to be in the entertainment industry after watching Kim Fields on Facts of Life as a kid.
Yes.
I wanted to be on TV. I'm like, well, I go to Catholic school. I got pigtails. I can do that too. And I love the idea of making people laugh and engaging them. And so I was always in arts and entertainment, theater, all that stuff as a kid, speech contests, you name it. And but I turned it into a profession because I also knew I didn't want to be a starving artist, and so I decided to go to law school. And I went during a time where there wasn't a lot of entertainment law programs. It was either went to Pepperdine or Vanderbilt, I think, at the time. But more schools are offering entertainment programs and more states are offering entertainment incentives, which brings the industry to the state. So now they form more educational programs. And so I knew that I had to pay the bills. And so how do I marry the two business and creative sides? Why not go to law school? Because I can use that degree no matter what. I can practice out the trunk of my car.
And that is there's such a need, right?
Yes.
Because so many creatives, we talk about the business aspect of it and how you also have to be an entrepreneur and understand contracts and things like that. But there's also this gap, I think, in lawyers who can really understand the media world and the industry. And so how did you bring those together?
Yeah, I think I do have a leg up in that I'm on both sides of the camera, so to speak. I'm a creative as well as on the business side. I understand the law side. I understand the business, the day-to-day of how you bring deals together, finance and all that stuff. My niche is production. I'm a production attorney, so my niche is I serve film and television productions, but I'm generally an entertainment attorney, so all the gamut, whether it's music, film, books, whatever, all that falls in that category, but that's my special little niche, productions. And so it's not there's nothing that you can come to me and say that I don't understand already, because I understand being in the trenches. I understand the hard work. I understand guerrilla filmmaking. So I think that's where I personally close the gap, having that personal experience as an actor, as a producer, as a writer, as a lawyer. So all in.
I've signed a lot of contracts in my life. And I know a lot of people who have.
Yeah.
It seems like the number one question is, how do I get out of this contract?
Yes. And that's the key, getting in a contract and getting out of a contract.
Yeah.
And so it's very important to have kind of those like exit strategies from the jump. But let me just start by saying this. Before you sign a contract, have a lawyer look at it.
Yeah.
And not only that, have the right lawyer look at it. Because if I have a contract for a book deal, I don't want to go to my real estate lawyer. I don't want to go to my probate lawyer, right? I want to go to someone who understands book publishing and all the things related to that. So that's the first thing. But it's very key to try to create, limits of terms and renewals of a contract, right? Don't make them automatic. If there's a dispute, how do you handle a dispute? Notice, remedies, things like that. What law applies? Those are all the kind of things that go into how do I get out of a contract. But more importantly, don't sign 25 years. Don't sign away all your rights. Maybe craft some language that allows your rights to revert back to you. There's just so many nuances to a good contract or a fair contract. It's always going to be not quite balanced. This is not real estate, right? We're talking about intellectual property and somebody paying you for your idea. So there's always going to be some imbalance, but just try to negotiate something fair to you.
I want to take you back a little bit to what Celeste and you were talking about a moment ago. And I don't know if it's just a stereotype we feed into, but the belief is those in the arts, we're more free thinkers and out there. We're not those detail people, and that those in the business and the legal end are a different mindset, working both sides of it. Do you find that that is true, or is it a fact that those of us on the art side have found a way to be lazy and not pay attention to it and use it as an excuse of, oh, we're in the arts, we don't worry about that?
I'll give you an idea of how I think people in the arts are not lazy. They say a lot of lawyers are nothing but actors. If I had to merge and show you how the skills are transferable to whichever field you work in, Ronald Reagan was an actor before he was a world leader. Bill Clinton plays a saxophone. So there's a way of merging these performing arts talents with real solid business, right? And I tell people, hey, if you work in a bank maybe, and you have to do a presentation to, all the bank managers around the nation, and you've never done that before, you've never spoken in front of such a large audience, and you're a little nervous, don't go back to that whole old cliche, imagine everybody in underwear. No, take an acting class, right? And that will make you focus and understand how to kind of improv and relate to your audience in such a way.
So we've had a lot of experience as a public with NDAs that seem to be broken a lot. Now, how is that?
Yeah. My honest opinion, I don't like NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. Some people call them also confidentiality agreements. I don't like them, and the reason why I don't like them, I think, they're a great piece of paper. You can kind of hold it up to deter bad behavior, but it doesn't deal with pillow talk. So, Frank, you could sign the NDA with me, but I don't know that you're not talking to your husband on the side, like, hey, I signed this contract today. They say don't say anything, but let me tell you what it says, right? I'll never know about
loose lips.
Never. I'll never know about that. But at any rate, the other thing is with NDAs, if there's no penalty clause in it, right? Like a punishment for breaking it, then how do you really enforce it other than to say, hey,
it's a pinky swear.
But
you said something
on the face legal? Is it legal to tell someone you have no ability to share this information that you experienced? Can that ultimately hold up long term?
Are you saying if you like
an NDA, you sign an NDA?
Yeah.
But how can someone limit your ability to live, in a sense, to be able to share your own experiences?
So part of that goes into negotiation of the language of the NDA, right? You want to make sure that it's crafted in a way that again, is practical, right? Because there's some standard boilerplate language that would go in there, like you do have the ability that if a court says you have to share, tell, disclose, or whatever, there's that. Or if the other party tells, disclose, etc., then there's that opportunity to talk. But you're talking about getting into trade secrets and like the real nitty gritty things that are. Can get into somebody's money and
tangibles.
And bank account and pockets, right? Those are things that you really, really are concerned about. Is it going to cost me? Am I going to lose something in it? But the fact that oftentimes with NDAs in the film business, most people want to share scripts.
And
right?
that's what I was going to say.
Okay.
I think, to me, whenever I think an NDA, I'm not thinking about you can't share experience. I'm thinking if I'm an executive producer or a writer, and I have a script, and I have a production budget, and I have somebody who wants to come buy in, and I have my P&L of how much it's going to cost, and we're looking at renting studios, and we're looking at a bottom line.
And you have a great idea.
And I have a great idea, and somebody says, well, I want in to invest, and I show you all of those, you're absolutely going to sign an NDA that you can't go and essentially use based on my work, my business. This isn't any type of experience. This is just my black and white documents. Can't go use it or sell it to somebody else.
So isn't that like intellectual property then?
It applies to several things. Yes, but then also intellectual property has a physical, tangible form, like if it's a product or whatever, right? And the word I was looking for earlier was proprietary. Proprietary information, right? So to your point of who and why sign or whatever, I think it's a matter of leverage. If I am a filmmaker and I need $1 million to make my movie, and a movie is nothing but an idea. Script's nothing but an idea, really, right? Until it's done. It's really just these ideas of this story I fabricated, whatever. But you have this whole pitch deck of ideas of how I want to get this movie done, how it'll be successful. But you have the $1 million. You might tell me, I don't want to sign your paperwork. I don't sign that. I'm going to either do the deal or not. You just got to trust the process. As a filmmaker, I may have to make that decision that, do I want to share? So now your leverage becomes how much I'm going to share, right? And then how do I protect what I do have if he's not going to, or she's not going to sign my NDA. So with the script, you want to register with the Copyright Office. You want to deposit it with the WGA, Writers Guild of America, to make sure that you have as much proof of authorship, right? So do as much as you can. But again, going back to compiling numbers and lists and things like that, and lost profit statements and stuff like that,
So I've been told in the past that as soon as you have an idea, it's your copyrighted idea.
In common law, yes. As soon as you take this expression from your head and put it in some type of tangible form, write it out, type it out, something, put it in a book, whatever, yes. So now you have something that you can register with the Copyright Office for federal protection.
I have an idea. You know how they used to rebuild houses when people would lose their house? They rebuilt houses for them. I had an idea. Let's rebuild churches. Churches burn because of the steeples catching on fire. Churches become dilapidated. Churches don't have the budget. Mm-hmm. Let's do a reality show, just like we built people's houses, of building churches around the country. That is great. Mm-hmm. Nobody bit. Mm-hmm. But is it still my copyright?
So it's an idea.
Now it's not.
You cannot protect.
I put it on our YouTube channel.
And whether you said it or not, it doesn't mean that somebody in Sacramento wasn't already thinking that, right? Or did it and it just didn't go anywhere, like developed it, but nobody bit, right? You cannot copyright an idea. It really does have to be more of a developed thought that's become this tangible expression. Right. So there's a whole list, right? Scripts, blueprints for, architectural plans, choreography. There's so many things that's specific.
Websites?
Under the code. Well, so if it's like, I would say like design factors of website, like artwork, maybe logos. Again, if you're just talking about text of if you start to break it down, like text of dates, right? Yeah. Calendars, events coming up, that's not really protectable itself. But the overall design and layout and logos and things like that, you might be able to protect fully. It just kind of really depends on how it looks. And I say that, I don't like to say yes, because some people just have a website and then they'll have just not the logo, but maybe it's just text on it, right?
Jalene, something I do want to touch on is the Mack Performing Arts Collective.
Absolutely.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes, this is my nonprofit, MPAC, Mack Performing Arts Collective for short, for the long name. MPAC for short. We've been around for 15 years. Back in January, we celebrated 15 years. It is a arts. Thank you so much. It's an arts and entertainment nonprofit that has been designed to help those seeking professional careers in arts and entertainment be successful in the business. So we provide a lot of resources, whether those are workshops, panel discussions, film festivals, music symposiums, TV forums. We've done lots of things, showcases for comedians, workshops for comedians. It's creating access to Hollywood. I've brought all the stars. Okay, it's just probably name somebody, and they've been here in some way, some capacity, and it's not about just bringing the stars. Sometimes, honestly, bringing stars is like flag, like the shiny coin, right? Right. But it gets people to pay attention. But then the panel itself is full of a lot of people behind the scenes that are not necessarily celebrities, but they got all the knowledge. Mm-hmm. And so I'm pretty proud of MPAC. I want to say we were really a catalyst here in Houston in the early 2000s, I say 2011 on, in getting more people to provide educational workshops and things like that for those here, our talent here in the city. So pretty proud of MPAC. So anyway, check it out.
Yeah,
Mack Performing Arts Collective.
Yeah, I was going to say, where can people go to find out more information?
Yes, impact-arts.org. And if they want to make a donation, it's a nonprofit, tax exempt.
Yeah.
Nice.
Definitely.
Okay, finally, Rebuild Churches reality show, and I've decided we're going to call it Steeplechase.
Oh, that's cute.
See, so
I like that.
I'm your new copyright client.
I like that. Go ahead and at least register, try to register.
And you know, Frank, you could have raised that money
trademark.
if Kamala Harris hadn't sold
She
her
gave me the
myths.
money.
Jalene Mack is a lawyer, actress, producer, writer, author, and philanthropist. Jalene, thank you so much for joining us today
Thank you for having
on
me.
Hello
This was
Houston.
wonderful.
And that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for watching and listening to Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll also be joined by former U.S. District Judge Vanessa Gilmore. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Join us for Hello Houston, weekdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., taking a deep dive into the stories that matter to Houstonians, keeping you